The metal room was silent except for one sound, the slow shaking breaths of a frightened alien girl. Her name was Rayla, and she sat curled inside a cold iron cage. The cage was too small for her tall, slender body, and every time she moved, the bars scraped against her skin, leaving faint blue marks. The air around her smelled like rust and dust. It tasted old, like the place had been abandoned for many years, but she was not alone. She could hear footsteps far down the hall, heavy, slow, cruel. The raiders were coming again. Rayla hugged her knees tighter. She tried to stay strong, but her hands trembled. She knew why they had taken her. She knew what they planned. The raiders were a brutal species who captured rare females from other worlds. For one reason, forced breeding programs. And tonight, they were preparing the machines for her. A soft hum filled the room. Strange devices with long mechanical arms sat in the shadows. Their lights blinked slowly like hungry eyes waiting to open. Whenever Rayla looked at them, her chest tightened, and she felt the urge to scream, but she kept it inside. If she screamed, they would only enjoy it. A metal door slid open with a sharp hiss. 2 raiders entered, tall and armored, with teeth like broken knives. They spoke in their rough, growling language. Rayla understood only a few words, enough to make her heart freeze. Prepare, the subject. Cycle begins soon. No delays. Rayla looked down, trying not to show fear, but the raiders laughed. She is shaking, one said. Good. Fear makes them obey. Rayla closed her eyes. She wanted to be anywhere else, with her family, with her friends. Flying in open skies. Not here, not trapped. Not waiting for a fate she never chose. The raiders activated a control panel. The machines hummed louder. One metal arm extended slightly, testing its joints. A single tear slipped from Rayla's eye. This is my last night, she thought. No one will come for me. Then suddenly, everything stopped. The hum of the machines, the quiet laugh of the raiders. Even her heartbeat felt like it froze, because a new sound entered the old tunnels, soft, slow, and steady. Not heavy like a raider's step, not sharp like a machine dot. It was the sound of human boots. One raider tilted his head. Do you hear that? The other hissed. Impossible. No humans come to this moon. The footsteps grew closer. Rayla lifted her head slightly. Her bright green eyes glowed in the dim light. For a moment, she forgot her fear. Someone was coming. But she did not dare hope. The door opened again, but this time, it was not a raider. A single man stepped inside, human, young, clothes covered in dust and engine oil. A light in his hand, a knife on his belt. A confused but determined look on his face. His name was Evan Cole, cargo pilot who had crash-landed on the far side of the moon only 1 hour ago. He looked like someone who did not belong in a nightmare. Like this, yet here he was. The raiders growled and moved toward him. Evan raised his light and blinked. What the hell is this place? He saw Rayla. He saw the cage. He saw the machines waiting behind her. His face changed. Confusion turned into anger, quiet, controlled anger. One raider barked, "Leave, human not welcome." Evan ignored him and took a small step closer to the cage. Rayla shook her head at him, silently telling him to go. She did not want anyone to die because of her, but Evan didn't leave. What are you doing to her? He asked. The raiders laughed. Not your concern. Go before you join her. Evan did not move back. He looked at the cage again. Rayla stared at him with terrified eyes, but there was something else inside them, too hope she was trying to hide. Evan spoke calmly, but his voice shook with anger. Let her out. The raiders roared in amusement. Human. You are alone, one of them said. You cannot stop us. Evan's hand went to the knife on his belt. I'm not trying to stop all of you, he said. I'm just trying to stop you. The raiders stepped forward. Evan stepped forward too. Ryla felt her breath catch. She whispered, "Please, go. They will kill you." Evan looked at her for one long moment. Then he said the words that froze every raider in the room. "Not before I break this damn cage." Silence. Fell. Ryla stared at him, stunned. Why would a human, someone she had never met, risk his life for her? The raiders snarled and prepared to attack. Evan tightened his grip on his knife. The machines hummed again in the background. Sensing movement, Ryla pressed her hands against the bars of the cage. The raiders roared, and the chapter ends as Evan lunges forward, determined to fight. Wow. Ryla watches in disbelief, realizing this human might be her only chance. And she doesn't even know his name. The moment Evan stepped between Ryla and the raiders, the whole room shifted. The raiders expected fear. Humans always showed fear. But Evan's eyes carried something different, solid determination, like he had already accepted the risk. One raider rushed forward first, swinging a heavy metal baton. Evan ducked, rolled sideways, and slammed his shoulder into the creature's ribs. The baton clattered to the ground. The raider stumbled, shocked that a human had dared to fight back. Ryla watched from inside the cage, her hands gripping the bars so tightly her fingers hurt. She whispered to herself, Why is he doing this?" The second raider raised a shock rifle. Evan reacted fast, picking up the fallen baton and smashing it into the raider's arm. Sparks burst from the weapon as it fell. The raider howled in pain, but Evan wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for battle. His body shook, breath ragged. He knew he couldn't fight forever. Still, he didn't step back. He looked at Ryla. "Don't worry, I'll get you out." Those words hit her harder than any weapon. No one had ever promised her safety before, not since she was taken. One raider recovered quickly and charged Evan again. Evan avoided the attack but slipped on the dusty metal floor. He hit the ground hard, losing the baton. The raider stood above him, ready to crush his skull. Ryla gasped and slammed her hand against the bars. "Stop! Please stop!" Her voice echoed across the chamber, but the raiders ignored her. Evan rolled at the last second. The raider's heavy foot smashed the floor instead of Evan's head. Evan grabbed a broken pipe from the ground and swung it upward with desperate strength. The pipe cracked against the raider's jaw. The raider fell back, dazed. Evan didn't wait. He crawled toward the control panel beside Ryla's cage. His hands shook as he scanned the symbols. Alien icons, unknown language. Strange switches. Come on. He muttered. Ryla pressed her face against the bars. "The center lever," she whispered. "Pull it up, not down." Evan nodded and pulled. The cage door clicked, but didn't open. A second lock remained. A warning alarm blared across the room. Red lights flooded the chamber. The machines behind Ryla activated again, their metal claws twitching as if excited by danger. Ryla's eyes widened. "No, not now." The second raider staggered to his feet, furious. "You cannot escape," he growled. "She belongs to us." Evan glared at him. "She belongs to herself." He slammed the handle on the second lock. This time, the cage door slid open. Ryla stepped out only halfway before freezing, unsure if she should run toward freedom or stay behind the human who was still fighting for her. Evan noticed her hesitation and whispered, "Move, you're free now." Free, a word she hadn't heard in so long it felt unreal. But freedom lasted only a second. The floor shook as the raiders activated a tunnel-wide alarm. Metal shutters began descending over the exits. A heavy clang echoed as the first escape corridor sealed shut. "They are locking the base," Ryla cried. Evan grabbed her wrist, not roughly, but like someone guiding her through danger. Then, "We don't waste time," he said. "We find another way." Ryla looked at him, breathing fast. "Why are you helping me?" Evan didn't answer right away. He stared at the closing tunnels, scanning for an opening. "Because," he finally sighed, I heard someone crying in the dark. And I couldn't walk away. Ryla's chest tightened. No one in her life, not even her own people, had ever said something that simple and powerful. Humans were supposed to be selfish, weak, afraid. But this one, he stood alone in a room of killers. The remaining raider roared and grabbed a fallen shock rifle. He aimed at Evan and fired. A beam of blue energy shot across the room. Ryla reacted without thinking. A small burst of psychic energy pulsed from her palms, knocking the aim off by inches. The shot hit the wall instead. Evan turned to her in surprise. No time, she said. Run. Together, they sprinted toward the last open corridor, the only one not yet sealed shut. The alarms grew louder. Metal screeched as the shutters dropped inch by inch. Evan held her hand tighter. Ryla tried to match his speed despite her weakness. Behind them, the raiders chased with rage. Ahead of them, the corridor was closing fast. Evan yelled, "Jump!" And they leaped through the shrinking gap just as the metal shutter slammed behind them, locking the raiders out and locking their fate together. The metal shutter slammed behind them, sealing the raiders inside the chamber. The echo rolled through the dark corridor like a warning. Dust drifted from the ceiling as the old mining tunnel shook from the alarm system. Ryla and Evan didn't stop running. Ryla's legs were weak from days of captivity, and every step felt heavy, but she forced herself forward. Evan stayed beside her, matching his pace to hers. Even though he could run much faster, he kept glancing back. "They'll cut through that door soon," he said. Ryla nodded, breath sharp. "They always find a way." The corridor stretched ahead like a long steel throat. The lights flickered. Old machinery hummed in the walls. Pipes dripped with green coolant that smelled like acid. Ryla knew this place too well. She had been dragged through these tunnels before. They reached a crossing where 3 tunnels split apart. Evan stopped. "Which way?" Ryla pointed to the left. "That one goes deeper. Too dangerous." "To the right?" Evan asked. "Dead end. I tried that before they caged me." The middle path was silent and dark, with no visible lights. Evan frowned. "What's there?" Ryla swallowed. "Storage tunnels. Old, forgotten tunnels." "So that means fewer raiders," Evan said. "It also means collapsing floors, old traps and machines that don't follow orders anymore." Evan gave a tired smile. "Sounds perfect." Before Ryla could argue, Evan gently grabbed her arm and led her into the dark tunnel. They moved quickly yet carefully. The floor creaked, the walls groaned. Every few steps, something metallic clicked or hissed from the shadows. Ryla whispered, "This place remembers pain." Evan didn't understand her words, but he felt the weight of them. They reached a large chamber filled with broken crates and rusted machines. Strips of old caution tape floated in the air like ghosts. Overhead, a large ventilation fan turned. Slowly, making a deep hump-hump sound, Evan scanned the room. No raiders yet. Ryla placed her hand on a broken console. The wires buzzed under her touch. "This is old tech," she said softly. "My people built these tunnels long ago, before the raiders came." Evan looked at her with surprise. "Your people were here?" "A mining team. Peaceful. They left when the moon dried out. The raiders arrived later and turned everything into a trap." A metallic whistle cut through the air. Evan's head snapped up. What was that? Ryla's eyes widened. She grabbed his sleeve and pulled him down just in time. A tracking drone zipped through the room, scanning the floor with a sharp blue laser dot. It hovered near the entrance, searching. Ryla's hands shook. "It will call the raiders if it sees us." Evan whispered, "Can you disable it?" "With that thing you did earlier?" Ryla closed her eyes. "I don't know. I am too weak, but I can try." She took a slow breath and focused. A faint shimmer appeared around her fingers, small, pale, like dying fireflies. The shimmer flickered toward the drone. For a moment, the drone's laser blinked. Its humming slowed. Then Rayla gasped and fell back, exhausted. I can't hold it. But the drone spun, confused, its systems glitching. Evan grabbed the chance. He picked up a metal rod and hurled it. The rod smashed into the drone, sending it crashing to the floor. Rayla stared at him. You acted so fast, Evan shrugged. You made the opening, I used it. But there was no time to celebrate. From the far end of the chamber came the sound. They feared most Raider footsteps. Heavy, fast, angry. They're coming, Rayla whispered. Evan grabbed her hand. We're not dying here. They ran again, crossing the chamber and squeezing through a narrow passageway between collapsed beams. The tunnel on the other side slanted upward, but the floor shook under their feet. Rayla stumbled. Evan caught her before she fell. Sorry, she said breathlessly. I'm slowing you down. You're staying alive, Evan said. That's enough. They pushed forward until they reached another chamber, smaller, darker, with a single exit on the opposite side. Except the exit was blocked by a fallen blast door. Evan cursed under his breath. A dead end. Rayla stepped toward the wall, placing her palm on a strange marking. A small spiral symbol carved into the metal. Her eyes widened. This is not a dead end, she whispered. This is a hidden door. A what? Evan asked. A door only. My people can open. She closed her eyes and focused. The spiral symbol glowed faintly, reacting to her presence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the metal wall trembled, shifted, and slowly split open, revealing a dark hallway beyond. Evan stared in disbelief. You've got to be kidding. But before they could enter, the Raiders' footsteps reached the chamber behind them. Rayla looked at Evan, fear and hope mixed in her eyes. He nodded. Let's go. They slipped through the hidden doorway, and it closed behind them just as the Raiders arrived. The hidden door sealed behind them with a heavy metallic thunk, leaving Rayla and Evan standing in total darkness. For a moment, neither of them moved. They could still hear the Raiders on the other side angry shouts. FISTS hitting the sealed wall, the echo of metal tools scraping. But the door did not open. They can't break it, Rayla whispered. This door was built long before they came. They don't know its code. Evan exhaled slowly, finally allowing himself 1 second of relief. 1 minute saved, he said. A lifetime left to survive. Rayla stepped forward, her fingers brushing against the smooth stone-like walls. The air here was different, cleaner, older, almost warm. It felt like the tunnel was welcoming her. This place, she murmured. It remembers my people. Evan turned on his small wrist light. The beam revealed symbols carved along the wall's curving lines, spirals, stars, and patterns that looked like constellations. The markings glowed faintly under Rayla's touch, responding to her presence as if she were a key. The corridor opened into a wide chamber, dusty but untouched for decades. In the center stood a massive object covered in cloth and old wires. It resembled a machine, but not like the Raiders' cold metal devices. This one felt alive. Evan walked around it, eyes narrowing. What is this? Rayla stepped closer. Huh. Navigator core. Navigator? Evan repeated. My ancestors used it to map safe paths through dying star systems. It can show routes no one else can see. Evan blinked. You're telling me this thing can show us a way off this moon? Rayla nodded slowly. If it still works. Evan brushed his hand over the dusty surface. The machine hummed faintly beneath his touch. It felt ancient yet powerful, like touching the heartbeat of the moon itself. Rayla reached for the central panel. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, but from memory. She had seen this design before in old stories, old lessons, things she once thought she'd never use. She pressed her palm against the panel. Nothing happened. She pushed harder. Still nothing. She stepped back, frustration filling her eyes. I'm too weak. I can't activate it without full strength. Evan shook his head. You don't need strength. You need connection. He placed his hand over hers gently. Try. Again. I'm here. She looked up at him, surprised. No one had ever supported her like this before. Not even her own people during training. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes and focused. A faint glow spread across the panel. Then, the entire chamber lit up with swirling lights. Constellations burst into view, forming holograms that hovered in the air like floating stars. Lines connected between them, forming routes, paths, and unknown galaxies. Evan stepped back, stunned. It's beautiful. Ryla's eyes softened. It's alive. But the moment of awe ended quickly. A red line flashed across the hologram, blinking urgently. A warning signal. Evan frowned. What does that mean? Ryla stepped closer. It's telling us something is wrong. The hologram shifted, showing a tunnel deeper underground, one leading toward an exit shaft. But the path pulsed with a danger symbol. The raiders have blocked the main way out, Ryla said. But there's a second path, one they don't know about. Evan smiled slightly. Good, that's our road. But Ryla's face darkened. The machine is also warning about movement? Evan asked. She pointed at the hologram. A large shape crawled along the hidden tunnel. Slow, heavy, mechanical. Evan squinted. What is that? Ryla shook her head. One of the old mining guardians. My people left them behind when they abandoned the moon. They were meant to protect. But now they follow no commands, so it's dangerous? Evan asked. Extremely. Evan sighed. And that's our only path, isn't it? Ryla nodded. Before Evan could plan their next steps, the sound of metal cutting echoed from the sealed door behind them. The raiders had found a way to melt through. They didn't have minutes anymore. They had seconds. Evan grabbed Ryla's hand. Again, no more talking. Lead the way. Ryla took one last look at the glowing map, memorizing the route. Then she turned toward a narrow passage on the far side of the chamber. Behind them, sparks flew from the hidden door as the raiders forced their way in. Ahead of them, darkness waited. A tunnel that no raider knew, but a monster did, and together, they stepped into it. The hidden passage led Ryla and Evan deeper into the moon's forgotten tunnels. The air grew colder, and the walls changed from smooth metal to rough stone. They were entering the oldest part of the mining network, places untouched by any living being for decades. Behind them, the raiders' voices echoed faintly. They had broken through the secret door. They're faster than I thought, Evan said, listening carefully. They will not stop, Ryla whispered. Raiders never stop once they mark someone as property. Evan tightened his jaw. Well, they're about to learn humans don't stop either. As they moved forward, the tunnel widened into a sloped upward shaft. At the top, a faint pale light spread across the ceiling. Ryla gripped Evan's arm. That's the surface. They had made it all the way to the outer layer of the moon, but they were not safe yet. Halfway up the shaft, a deep metallic growl thundered through the stone. The ground vibrated slightly. Evan froze. What was that? Ryla's voice lowered to a fearful whisper. The mining guardian. It's awake. From the shadows below, a glowing red eye opened. Then another, and another. A multi-armed machine, taller than any raider, unfolded itself like a metal spider. Its legs drilled into the stone as it climbed toward them with slow, heavy movements. It thinks we're intruders, Ryla said. It will kill without hesitation. Evan grabbed her hand. Then we move, now. They ran up the slope as the guardian accelerated, its claws scraping sparks along the stone. Dust and pebbles rained from the ceiling as the ancient tunnel trembled under its weight. Evan pushed Ryla forward. Don't look back, Ryla couldn't help it. She looked. The guardian opened its front compartment, revealing a glowing metal core. It charged up energy enough to vaporize them in seconds. Ryla gasped. "Evan, jump to the side." They dove out of the shaft just as a beam of blue light tore through the spot where they had been standing. The blast shook the entire tunnel. Evan coughed, trying to catch his breath. "This thing is insane." Rayla pointed to the top of the shaft, where sunlight glowed faintly. "We reached the surface. It won't follow outside. It's programmed to guard tunnels only." "Great," Evan said. "So we just need to outrun a giant murder spider. Easy." They sprinted again. The Guardian climbed after them, gaining speed, its claws slicing through stone. The sound of metal grinding echoed like thunder. Rayla stumbled, knees trembling. Evan caught her again. "That's twice now," he said, forcing a smile. "You owe me." Ryla's lips curled into the smallest smile she'd ever made in captivity. "Then I will repay it." They reached the end of the shaft. A thin metal hatch led to the surface. Evan slammed his shoulder against it once, twice until it burst open. Blinding white light flooded the tunnel. The surface of the moon stretched out beyond them, rocky plains covered in dust storms, broken mining towers, and old satellite dishes buried in sand. The wind cut across the landscape like a cold blade. Ryla shielded her eyes. "We made it." But Evan grabbed her wrist and pulled her through quickly, because behind them, boom! The Guardian fired another beam. The tunnel ceiling collapsed, blocking the machine from reaching the surface. Dust exploded behind them. Evan exhaled deeply. That was close. But their victory was short-lived. From the right, the roar of engines shook the ground. Multiple Raider hoverbikes burst over the ridge, speeding toward them with glowing red headlights. Rayla's heart dropped. They came from another exit. They surrounded the area. Evan scanned the horizon. Then he pointed. "My ship there." Half buried in dust, tilted to one side, Evan's damaged cargo vessel lay about 200 meters away. Smoke still rose from one of its engines, but the cockpit looked intact. The Raiders saw it too. They accelerated. "Go!" Evan shouted. They ran across the rocky plain. The wind pushed against them. Sand stung their skin. Rayla's legs begged her to stop, but she forced herself forward. The bikes closed in. One Raider reached them first, swinging a chain weapon. Evan ducked and shoved Ryla aside. The chain smashed into the ground, sending dust flying. Ryla raised her hand. Her psychic energy flickered weakly. But even weak, it blinded the Raider for half a second. The bike swerved and crashed into a rock. Evan stared at her. "You're full of surprises," she managed a breathless reply. "You bring them out of me." 3 more bikes approached. Ship was only 50 meters away. Evan squeezed her hand. "Almost there." The Raiders aimed their weapons. Ryla whispered, "Please, let us make it." And together, they sprinted toward the broken ship as the Raiders prepared to strike. Blaster fire cut through the air as Evan and Ryla ran across the rocky surface. The Raider bikes circled them like predators. Dust clouds swirled behind each hover engine, turning the battlefield into a storm of sand and metal. Evan shielded Rayla with his body as a bolt of energy hit the ground beside them, blasting sharp stones into the air. "Don't stop," he yelled. Ryla pushed herself harder, even though her legs begged for rest. She had never run this fast in her life. But the human beside her, this stubborn, fearless human, refused to let her fall. The ship was close enough now that Rayla could see the cracked window of the cockpit and the scorch marks along the hull. Evan's crash had been rough, but it was still their only chance. The first Raider jumped off his bike, swinging a serrated blade toward Evan. Evan dodged sideways, grabbed the Raider's wrist, and slammed his elbow into the Raider's jaw. The creature staggered back, surprised that a human was fighting with such force. Evan didn't wait. He kicked the Raider's knee and sent him collapsing to the ground. Ryla cried out, "Evan, behind you!" Evan spun just as another Raider swung his heavy metal club. Evan blocked it with his forearm, pain shooting up through his body, but he didn't stop. He grabbed the club, twisted hard, and ripped it from the raider's grip. Then he swung it. With everything he had, the raider flew backward, landing in the dust. Ryla stared at Evan, stunned. "You fight like you were born for this." Evan shook his aching arm. "No, I fight because you need me to." But the raiders were not done. Not even close. Their leader, a towering brute with dark armor marked by glowing red lines, stepped off his massive hoverbike. His helmet retracted, revealing scarred skin and eyes full of cruelty. "This ends now," he growled. "Return the girl. She belongs to the program." Ryla flinched. The words felt like chains. Evan stepped in front of her. "She belongs to no one." The raider leader raised a plasma spear, the energy tip crackling with blue fire. "You are human," he spat. "Weak, breakable. You think you can protect her?" Evan gripped the metal club tighter. "I don't think. I choose." The leader charged. Evan barely blocked the first strike. The spear slammed against the club with a blast of sparks. The force pushed Evan back several steps. His boots slid across the dust. The raider attacked again, spinning the spear with expert speed. Evan blocked, ducked, and dodged. But the creature was stronger, faster, and trained for killing. Ryla could only watch, helpless, her heart beating painfully fast. She wanted to help. She wanted to scream. But her strength was nearly gone. The leader swung the spear low. The blow hit Evan's leg. He fell to one knee, pain shooting up his body. Ryla gasped, "Evan!" The raider lifted the spear to finish him. At that moment, something shifted inside Ryla: anger, fear, and a strange warmth she didn't understand. Her hands glowed faintly. She cried out, releasing a small psychic blast. The raider leader stumbled back, the spear flickering in his hands. Evan pushed himself to his feet. Nice timing. Ryla fell to the ground, weak again. "I cannot do it again. I am sorry." "Don't be sorry," Evan said. "Just stay alive." But the leader recovered fast. He roared and charged one more time. Evan raised the club, meeting the spear head-on. The shockwave rippled across the battlefield. Both fighters pushed against each other, strength and will clashing in a storm of sparks. The raider was winning. Evan's arms trembled. His grip loosened. The spear's energy tip moved closer and closer toward Evan's chest. "Evan!" Ryla screamed. Her voice cracked, something deep inside Evan: fear, anger, willpower. He didn't know. But something ignited. He shoved forward with a final burst of strength, throwing the raider off balance. The leader stumbled. Evan swung the metal club into the raider's head. Crack. The raider fell to his knees. The rest of the raiders, seeing their leader down, froze for a moment. Confusion spread through their ranks. Evan dropped the club, panting hard, body shaking. He looked at Ryla, who stared at him with wide, glowing eyes. "You're hurt," she whispered. "I'm alive," he said. "That's enough." But the leader wasn't finished yet. He raised a small plasma pistol and aimed it directly at Evan's back. Ryla saw it before Evan did. In that instant, the world slowed. She didn't think. She didn't plan. She just moved. Ryla's psychic power surged in a final desperate wave, stronger than ever before. A shimmering shield of pale light exploded outward, wrapping around Evan. The plasma shot hit the shield and dispersed into blue sparks. Evan turned in shock. "Ryla, you!" But she collapsed before he could finish. Her final whisper was soft but clear. "I will not let them take what saved me." Evan caught her before she hit the ground. He lifted her gently in his arms, holding her close. The remaining raiders hesitated, no leader, confused. Blinded by Ryla's psychic blast, Evan looked toward his broken ship. "This ends now," he whispered. And carrying Ryla, he ran toward the ship as the last battle began behind him. Evan held Rayla tightly in his arms as he ran toward the damaged cargo ship. Her body felt weightless, fragile, but warm. Her head rested against his shoulder, eyes half closed, breaths soft and uneven. Behind them, the remaining raiders recovered. From the shock, they roared in anger, climbing onto their bikes. Engines ignited with violent screams. Evan didn't look back. "You're going to be okay," he whispered to her, even though he was breathless and bleeding. "You hear me? You're going to be okay." Rayla opened her eyes slightly. Her voice was weak. "Evan, you should put me down. Save yourself." "Not happening," he said. She looked at him, confused, touched, defeated. "No one has ever carried me, not like this." Evan almost smiled despite the danger. First time for everything. He reached the ship and kicked open the emergency hatch. Sparks flickered from the broken control wires. The interior smelled of burnt circuits and leaking fuel. Evan carefully placed Rayla in the co-pilot seat. She leaned against the chair, eyes closing again. "Stay awake," he said softly. She nodded, though her strength was almost gone. Outside, the raiders closed in. Hoverbikes circled the ship. Blasters charged. The ground shook with their engines. Evan climbed into the pilot seat, fingers flying across the cracked control panel. The screens flickered. Warnings flashed red. The engine hissed but didn't start. Come on, he muttered. A loud boom hit the ship's side. The raiders were firing. Rayla forced herself to sit up. Her voice was barely a whisper. "They won't stop. Unless we leave the moon. I'm trying," Evan said, punching a control key. "This ship is older than I am." Another blast shook the ship. Dust fell from the ceiling. Rayla reached out her trembling hand and placed it gently over Evan's. He froze. "Let me help," she whispered. Her palm glowed faintly. The control panel flickered, then steadied. The lights brightened. Something inside the ship hummed to life. Evan stared at her. "You can interface with machines?" "Only when I'm connected to someone." The meaning of her words sank in slowly. He nodded. "Then let's do this together." He placed his other hand over hers. Rayla's weak smile returned. Together. The engine roared, coughing once, then starting fully. Dust exploded behind the ship. Outside, the raiders panicked. "They're lifting off." "Shoot them down." "Do not let her escape." Evan gritted his teeth. "Hang on." He pulled the control lever. The ship rose unevenly at first, shaking violently. Energy bolts from raider weapons hit the hull, melting metal. But the ship powered through the storm, higher, until the surface of the moon grew smaller beneath them. Rayla watched through the window, eyes full of disbelief. "I am really leaving," she whispered. "After all this time, I am free." Evan glanced at her. "Yeah, you are." But then her expression changed. Sadness slipped into her eyes. "What's wrong?" Evan asked. Rayla's voice shook. "I have nothing left. No home, no people. They took everything from me." Evan reached over, gently holding her hand. "You're wrong," he said softly. "You have your freedom, and you're not alone anymore." Her breath caught. Her eyes shimmered. Outside. Space opened before them, quiet, endless, peaceful. The stars reflected in her eyes like tiny lights of hope. She turned to him. "You saved my life, Evan. You saved it more than once." He shrugged lightly. "It was the right thing to do." "No," she whispered firmly. "It was more than that. You saw me when no one else would. You fought for me when I could not fight for myself. You carried me when I could not walk." She paused. "And you believed in me, even when I had stopped believing in myself." Evan looked away, embarrassed. "Anyone would have done the same." Rayla shook her head slowly. "No human has ever protected someone like me, not with such heart." The ship's alarms finally quieted. They had escaped the moon's gravity. Silence filled the cabin, warm, safe. Ryla leaned her head gently against Evan's shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered, "for choosing me." Evan didn't move away. He let her rest, breathing softly beside him. After a long moment, he said quietly, "You don't owe me anything." "Rayla, you never did." She closed her eyes. "But I will stay with you until I repay the life you gave back to me." Evan smiled faintly. "You don't have to." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I will." Outside the window, the stars stretched on forever, bright, endless, full of new beginnings. Ryla was no longer a prisoner, no longer a target, no longer a lone dot, and for the first time in her life, she allowed herself to hope. A human had changed her fate, and together, they flew into the future with nothing holding them down. HFY. Humans. F******. Yeah.